Salam sejahtera, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you, and also to our speaker for today, Puan Hartini Othman. Thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar today. We appreciate your presence. Our talk today is the 33rd of our continuing series of webinars focusing on Malaysia's competitiveness performance and ranking as assessed and reported yearly by international organizations. IMD, short for International Institute for Management Development, published this performance and rank in their World Competitiveness Yearbook, as do the World Economic Forum, also known as WEF, in their Global Competitiveness Report. In the recent World Competitiveness Yearbook 2020, also known as WCY 2020, Malaysia's competitiveness ranking has dropped to 27th position from 22nd in 2019 out of 63 countries assessed by IMD. This overall competitiveness score and rank is calculated based on 255 criteria measuring different dimensions of an economy's competitiveness. 2/3 of the criteria use hard data or statistics obtained from international and also national sources, and 1/3 uses survey data obtained from an executive opinion survey aimed at respondents from the middle and senior management levels of the private sector. The 255 criteria are categorized into the 4 competitiveness categories, also known as factors by IMD's definition. And these are the economic performance, government efficiency, business efficiency, and infrastructure. In our talk today, our speaker, Puan Hartini, will be presenting on internet bandwidth speed, which is a criterion in the infrastructure factor. This criterion measures the average connection speed in megabits per second, and the higher the speed, the higher will be the rank for this criterion. I'm sure Puan Hartini will elaborate further and enlighten us on this topic in our talk today. So before I hand over the session to our speaker, let me first introduce her. Puan Hartini Othman graduated from University Technology Mara with a Business Management and Operations Management Advanced Diploma. She has more than 20 years of professional experience in various functions of operations management, supply chain management, related to external supply flow and internal operations of the business. Among the positions she has held are planner and customer service manager, and at the regional level as manager in customer support, product portfolio, and life cycle management. In the last 2 decades, she has had a long-lasting career with different divisions within Ericsson. And Puan Hartini has extensive knowledge in competitive analysis, industrial business intelligence, project management, life cycle management, vendor management, supply chain management, product portfolio and life cycle management, product certification, ISO certification and documentation on quality improvements, process development and implementation. She also has well-established skills in driving strategies in delivering Internet of Things, and that is the IoT contracts, safety regulation, ensuring fair competition, and safe product usage in the electrical industry. Among her many accomplishments during her employment with Ericsson and another company called Signify, she was a successful negotiator, gaining and handling not only internal production line cost savings, third-party outsourcing, customer service excellence delivery, but also in successfully handling and closing out multi-million-dollar worth of external contracts. And with that, I now hand over the session to our speaker, Puan Hartini. Please, carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera semua. First of all, thank you to MPC as well for giving me this opportunity to actually deep dive on this study from the IMD, as has been described by Mr. Wong. And also, thank you for your time for all the participants this afternoon. I appreciate that. Okay, so I will actually bring you through for this specific criteria, internet bandwidth speed, criteria number 4.2.09 in IMD competitiveness report. World Report 2020. Yeah. So the purpose of this is actually, as we just discussed, to highlight the current ranking in year 2020 for this specific topic in internet bandwidth speed, sorry. And then also to study and analyze the reasons that have determined the current position, yeah, why it has been as such. And also last but not least is the recommendations on the improvement of overall competitiveness ranking and other strategies or improvement that Malaysia can have in order to improve further in this speed. Okay, first I will explain to you what is bandwidth speed. So there's two words here. Sometimes it will be lots of confusions maybe. So one is bandwidth, one is speed, right? So you have to understand these two words first before we can go and have a clear how this is measured further by MD. Yeah. So bandwidth is actually a volume of information that can be sent over a connection, and it is measured by megabits per second. Yeah. While the bandwidth is a frequency or group of rates used for carrying information from the source to the end of the customers. Yeah. And the difference between these is actually is quite clear here. Bandwidth is the volume of information that can be sent, and the speed is how fast the information can be received. Of course, through all the internet mediators and all that. For example, if you use Wi-Fi, if you use DSL, if you use a fixed line and all that, right? So as example, I put there the system of the filling up the bathtub. Yeah. So if you have a wide faucet, yeah, so more water can flow faster rather than you have a narrow faucet and all that. Yeah. So the water may have a slow speed in comparison to a wider faucet that you have or a wider bathtub that you have. Yeah. Okay. So that's basically the definition of the bandwidth and speed. Okay, so what has been measured from the IMD is actually based on the four main factors, which is economic performance, government efficiency, business efficiency, and last one is infrastructure. So internet bandwidth speed is actually falls under infrastructure factor, under the sub-factor of technological infrastructures. So if you can see here, there's a lot of sub-factors, and there could also be a sub-factors there as well. Okay, this is the current internet bandwidth speed ranking in the IMD World Report. So Malaysia is ranked at 36 this year. And this has shown a slight increase from previous year in 2019, which we have increase of 3 in the rank. And in the value, if you can see, we are actually moved up from 13.3 to 31. Okay, and throughout the report, Singapore has the fastest internet bandwidth speed, which you can see here, value of 80. Actually, there is, even though it has shown an increase here, but will still have a huge gap from the fastest internet service in the world, perhaps, I guess. Yeah. So we need to actually really look and deep dive into this. What is the issue around this and how we can actually improve in this. Yeah. So this is the total, if you can see a total ranking throughout the 63 countries in the world that has been measured. So we are ranked at number 36. And if you can see here, we are in the middle, ranking. Not so bad, I would say. But of course, if you compare to the fastest country on the bandwidth speed, it's a lot of room for improvement in Malaysia perspective. Yeah. So if you can see here, Korea is number 2, and yeah, most of them is the European country stood as the highest ranking here. Okay, how IMD is measuring this and get the data for these specific indicators. Yeah. So basically, there is 3 segments that I have made here. National source, in which how the local authorities is getting the data, for example, MCMC. So they are getting a speed test report from a local telco directly. For example, in Malaysia, from the main players, for example, Maxis, DG, Celcom, Telecom, and all that. Yeah. And from the international source, how this IMD is getting the data, they get directly from the lab. If you can see here, a few names here, the Open Signal, the Ookla, the Akamai, they are labs. So they are giving directly the information to the IMD, which is actually determine the measurement for the internet bandwidth speed for Malaysia specifically. Yeah. And how they calculate this is actually they are taking the average connection speed in megabytes per second. Yeah, the data transfer rate for internet access by the end users. Yeah, that means when they say end users, is actually all of us who are actually subscribing the internet services. Okay, so this is actually basically in details how IMD get the data. So they get the data from various sources, and the sources that they get is actually the international lab or the certification body. Yeah. So MLab, Cable, Co.uk, OpenSignal, Akamai, Ookla, they are all lab tests or they are all certification body, depends on what scope or what segmentation that they are handle. For example, they specialize in mobile internet, and they specialize in cable and TV internet and satellite and all that. So they are the one who are actually doing the test for our local telco specifically. Yeah. So from that abundance data that they collected from the various lab, this is how they are actually calculate on average on all the internet bandwidth speed for Malaysia. Last year, what they come out is actually the average speed that Malaysia has is 31 megabits per second. Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned just now, those measurements are coming from the labs. And for your information, the lab also is depending on the scope of business that they are doing, right? And of course, they are using different methodologies. Yeah. So from all this, I want to show you what is actually they are doing. For example, for these main 5 labs that IMD has been sourcing on the data for this. Yeah. So MLab is actually, they do a research by providing widely distributed service, ample connectivity for researcher use. That means it's specific, yeah, hosted on MLabs. They perform only active measurements, yeah. So they do not download or upload files from your device. That means they have a measurement test, specific applications that they have. Yeah? So this is mainly used for the researchers and all that. So mainly they're providing all those information for the researchers. Yeah? Cable.uk. Cable.uk, mainly they are measuring on the TV, landline, mobile packages and all that, and mobile providers as well. Internationally, yeah. Of course, they are UK based and they do as well for other countries in the world. Yeah. So what they are measuring is actually average download speed experienced by users across an operator's 3G and 4G network. So you can see there is a specific methodologies they are using. So whatever is below than 3G, they are not measuring those for their customers. Yeah. And Ookla, number 3 is Ookla. Ookla is actually, they are measuring a performance of the network, yeah, helping users assess the speed of their individual connection to the applications. That means you or us can have the applications in your smartphone and then start to do the test. Yeah. So they are doing mainly how they are doing is actually they do the sampling, yeah, sampling data in the accuracy measurements, yeah. And they are also actually measure a voice to describe what the internet connection is like on their device at the time and place that the customer used during that times. Yeah. For example, if you have the apps in your smartphone and then you are in the area of 4G coverage and you start to measure, you can get that measures live measurements on the current location and the current coverage that you have, right? If you in the 2G, so they will take that current measurements, yeah. And the results are actually within 300 miles of the server from the provider's server, from telco server. So that's the methods that used by Ookla. Yeah. So number 4, Akamai. Akamai is actually more on the over-the-top OTT solution, which is the media services. Is more on the internet, on the video conferencing and all that. Yeah, so they are measure the speed on those segmentation. Yeah. And the last one, the lab that has been used by IMD is OpenSignal. So they are the independent global standard for understanding states of world mobile networks. Yeah. From a real user experience. That means it's a single speed test, which they are doing the test directly to end user devices. For example, if you are using the mobile data, what is the speed during that time? If you are using the any other medium, so it depends on the moderator that you are using during that time. Yeah. Okay. So that was how IMD is taking up the data on how they are measuring the speed for Malaysia. And here in this slide, I show you how our MCMC or our Malaysia Multimedia and Communication is doing their measurement on the internet speed. Yeah? Basically, I would like to tell you that from the engagement, the internet bandwidth speed is not one of the official criteria that is used by ITU, International Telecommunication Union, to provide the report. So the measurement is actually for the own use, for MCMC to actually monitor the performance of the telco, to actually making sure that how they can strategize further based on the current performance that local telcos are doing right now in Malaysia. Yeah. And doing this, they have a standard which they call it a mandatory standard for a quality services, where all the telcos have to follow this. Yeah. So whenever you are a provider, you have to have at least 1 Mbps to download throughput at least 80% of the time. So that means you should have minimums of 1 megabits per second, sorry, and at least 80% download per time when we do the downloads, yeah. And latency not more than 250 millisecond. Latency is actually simple, is that the delay or the slowness of the download where you do the downloads or the pause and all that. So it depends on the network. For example, if 4G, of course, the latency will be lower. Yeah. So the lower the latency, the better the service is. Yeah. And the requirement for the MSQoS as well for the wired broadband. So they have a specific requirement as well. Fiber download and upload throughput must be more than 90% of subscribed speed or time, when the time that the customers do the downloads or uploads. Yeah, so you can expect 10% of the delay there. So that's the standard set by MCMC. If you are using the DSL, upload and throughput must be more than 70% of subscribe speed, at least 90% of the time. Yeah. So network latency allowed for both DSL and fiber must be less than 85 minutes per second. Yeah, milliseconds, and less at least 95% of the time, and packet loss is less than 1%. So that is the standard set by the MCMC, and whoever the telcos have to meet this requirement. At the left side of my slide here, this is the data from last year data that MCMC collected from the main telco players in Malaysia. If you can see here, Celcom, DG, Maxis, U-Mobile, TM, Unify Mobile, and Yes. And if you can see here, in terms of the average download throughput, Maxis has the highest for last year. Yeah. So and Celcom has 23, DG 25. And if you can see as well, I would like to highlight here, TM or Unify has the lowest downloads throughputs amongst all. Yeah? This is last year information from MCMC. Okay. Beside all those measurements and how they get the data, I also would like to highlight on the current situations in Malaysia, right? So that you can understand why there's shows some increase, but this is actually the situation that we had currently. Yeah, we'll still have a dominant players in Malaysia for the broadband, and as you know, Telekom Malaysia is part of the Khazanah. They are part of the government agency, so they are actually still playing the majority of the internet business in Malaysia. If you can see from the percentage here, their penetration is actually 92.2%, and Maxis and other operators is actually having another 8% of from the segmentation. Yeah. And I also would like to explain here why this happened. It's actually TM is actually our sole internet service provider, which is part of the government agencies, and other telco players in Malaysia is actually known as reseller, right? So they resell the services which is provided by the ISP. ISP I mean here is Telecom Malaysia, right? So there is no open telco in Malaysia. So if you can see here is one main ISP and distributed via, you call it a concept of resellers to other telco players like Maxis, DG, Celcom, etc. Yeah. Whereas if you can see in other Asian country, I put here example of Korea and Japan. They are quite balanced market because they their government is having open how do I say? It is open business. So telco can have a direct service. Each telcos is known as own internet service providers. So they are not like a reseller to the main internet service providers. Yeah. So if you can see there, the domination between the telcos itself is actually quite balanced in other Asian markets as the ISP, yeah, internet service provider. Okay, so we are talking already much about the MCMC, and yes, they are the only one regulators now and authorities who are actually control the overall internet service, or I would say in general, all the multimedia and communication in Malaysia. Yeah. So what they do is actually mainly is actually implementing and enforcing the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998. Yeah? All right, and they are also controlling the licenses that are giving and also the spectrum they are giving to the service providers. I mean the internet service providers. Okay. I think, Mr. Wong, before I start on the recommendation, maybe we can ask if there's any questions so far.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Puan. I'm looking at the question box, chat box, no question yet so far. No questions yet from participants who have joined our webinar today. Maybe I ask one question, Puan Hartini, just to seek clarification. You mentioned about our Telecom Malaysia. I think the pie chart you showed, Telecom Malaysia having 92%. Is that referring to wired broadband instead of cellular? Is this like fiber broadband, DSL? Is it wired broadband or is it overall, including cellular as well?
This is
I mean wireless as well. Sorry, I mean including wireless as well.
Yes, this is overall broadband penetration based on the telcos. That means it's in combinations of the fixed and the mobile or wireless. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
in Malaysia, just to sorry, in Malaysia, are the other players, the private sector, like you mentioned, Maxis, U-Mobile, DG, are they allowed to also fix or install equipment like towers and other communication equipment, or they have to use those provided by TM in the various states and regions that they operate in Malaysia?
Okay, they have to ask from the TM, and of course they have to have license on this. The license normally will actually be issued out by the MCMC, but the agreements or the allowance for them to actually provide the services is actually the deal mainly with the telecom and all that. For example, DG, they want to have these areas coverage of their network, so they have to actually have an agreement with the main players TM that they are allowed to do this, beside other policies that incorporate with this. For example, the land approvals and all that. But mainly they have to have the agreement and mutual approval from the TM before they proceed on this. So the telecom as a main ISP have to have an agreement with DG that they can actually do the coverage on this, and they can actually start to develop their networks in that area, and develops all the packages and the pricing and all that upon agreed or approval by the main ISP. So that's is the system now in Malaysia, right?
Okay.
And yeah, likewise, as I said, in other Asian countries, they are quite open. So individual operators just have to put up the strategies and get the approvals, and they can do that. Here, we still have quite many tiers for other telcos to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. There are still no questions yet from the participants so far. I think we can proceed first. Yeah, Puan.
All right. Okay, so we go to the recommendation, right? So what I can see here is actually first, what we can do actually to increase here to review the denomination of the high-speed broadband project under the NFCP programs. Yeah. So today, as we can see, that is dominated by one player. It's not open. So it's a lot of policy. It's a lot of legality. It's a lot of processes and all that. So I mean, this could actually slow down the process. NFCP itself, I think, is a very good plan where the strategy is all about improve on the speed of the internet and provide the best services to all the end users, right? For example, now, if you would like to know the statistic from the MCMC showing that we talk about the rural versus the urban versus the rural, yeah? So the denomination is actually 70-30. So it's more actually works or improvement, yeah, need to be done to upgrade those rural areas. Right? So I think the basic infrastructures is needed there. And actually, what happened is from a few interviews and engagement with the providers, basically they have capabilities. Yeah, they have their knowledge, they have their capex to actually speed up the infrastructures or upgrade the infrastructures to make sure that we have higher speed in those uncovered areas, for example, right? But all these, like I said just now, the denominations or of the business in the government itself, but via the TM, maybe will slow down the process. I'm not saying that it's actually stopping everything there, but perhaps make things delay. A lot of process, a lot of policies need to be done prior to that, right? So I guess this need to be reviewed, for example, by MCMC and also the Ministry of Science and Technology and Communications as well, right? As I mentioned just now, example in other Asian country, for example, Singapore, Thailand, and all that, their markets are mainly open or deregulated, yeah. So they are allowing direct access of a service provider to own the infrastructures, right? So the competition is there. So everyone is actually trying to be competitive and trying to actually have the best services throughout the nations. Yeah, like in Malaysia, we are a bit comfortable. And it's not because of the denominations of the business. I think it has been in slow progress where those main players or the dominators is actually comfortable with that without any competitions outside. Yeah. Okay. So that's my first recommendation. Okay, and what I mean by that the denomination is actually this is how it looks like now in Malaysia. Yeah, if you can see that today the 4G is actually the highest technology that we have in Malaysia, and if you can see the chart here, the 4G dominates throughout Malaysia is actually mainly heavily in the west, right? And it's quite imbalanced toward the east side of Malaysia. And if you look at throughout the Sabah and Sarawak, I think it's more slow or it's more low penetrations there in terms of the high speed broadband. Yeah. And if you look at here as well, from the state's perspective, the 4G availability is actually in the Klang Valley or in the Kuala Lumpur itself. Yeah, so the denominations of the high-speed broadband is still not there in Malaysia. It's still not balanced, right? So we have to actually review this or speed up the implementations of all programs of giving the high speeds broadband towards the rural area as well, or the uncovered area in Malaysia. Yeah, so I think that is critical needs. Otherwise, we are keeping our low speed infrastructure. For example, we still have lots of 2G and we still have lots of 3G technology in Malaysia, especially in the east. I would say that still using the 2G, most of the infrastructure that they have, yeah, or they call it GSM. Hmm? And simple is that if you go to the east on your mobile phone, the minutes that you see the east sign, actually that is 2G and below. So they are mainly for voice call, not for the data. So the speed is not there. Yeah. Okay. And number two, as I said just now as well, enhancements of 4G denomination and broader coverage, right? To do that, actually, as I just mentioned as well just now, the telco is ready because I think if you talk about the technology itself, it's readily available globally. In fact, if you don't talk about the 4G, the higher speed of internet, for example, 5G, and now even 6G, and now even people are doing R&D, starting to do R&D on the 7G itself already, right? And if you can see here, we are still not full covered with 4G, which is the highest speed internet that is available in Malaysia, right? And as I can say, I think the telcos is there to actually provide their infrastructures. or their capabilities, and the technology itself, I think, is available in the world. Lots of network providers, if you can see, like Ericsson, if you can see, like Huawei and all that, they are very heavily researched every day on the high-speed networks and what can be provided to the world. In lieu with the changes of the the way we work, the way business is, and all that, moving towards the digitalization. Yeah, and in Malaysia, I think what is actually perhaps a challenges in this for telco is actually a rigid process, or I would say simple is that it's a long process as well, right? For them, for example, to build up the telecommunication towers and all that, right? So I think a special task force need to be done to review lots of other things that actually create a gaps in this, why we couldn't actually give a full high speed internet in Malaysia, right? For example, I put there service tax. They are still impose service tax or corporate tax to telcos that at the end of the day, they impose that charges to us as a users, right? And you pay high fees on the packages that you bought from the telcos, right? And also the grant that perhaps that's an opportunity as well, right? To actually be reviewed how the government can give a grant in terms of uh, technological perspective, in terms of the operators to start and to invest in the technological infrastructures. For example, 4G, and after this 5G and all that, any grant that can help them to actually fund those investment, for example, right? And also we need to look at into the land approval process, right? To build up the signaling, for example, the 4G and all that, we need a telecommunication towers, right? And of course, I mean, those basically perhaps in suburban or in suburban, or mainly the towers are built in the rural areas, right? And of course, the identification of the land is, I think, is still not fully automated. For example, in Malaysia, still use a really intensive labor where the officers go and check the land and all that, whether it's suitable or not to develop the towers and all that. While I think there is also a systems or technology in this, using, for example, the satellites, or they can actually use a device to actually check the location itself. I think that has been used in Pahang for a test, yeah, to check the land areas and suitabilities to build up the infrastructures. Yeah. So I think this is among the basic things that we need to actually perhaps sit down together and review in terms of the act, in terms of the process itself. Of course, it will actually involve a lot of other authorities, and I think it has to be done. Otherwise, we'll be getting stuck there, and the high-speed broadband will not have full penetrations in Malaysia, right? Okay, and the third one, what I think is actually Malaysia need to start aggressively reforming the spectrum for 4G LTE. 4G LTE is actually in combinations of 3G and 4G. LTE means long-term evolutions, yeah? And especially, I think the technologies that we need to shut down now is actually 2Gs. We'll still have a lot of 2G's penetrations, especially in the east of Malaysia, or I would say mainly from rural areas. Yeah. Whereas, if you can see, but also there's also perhaps another issues that telco need to actually see on how they are using or how they are providing these internet services, because 2G is mainly for voice, and some of the 3G technologies as well is using in the voice services. Yeah. So if they don't actually upgrade those into the 4G and scrap the 2G and 3G, it will becoming worse in that perspective, because the voice in some areas is still depending on the 2G. So there's a lot of things need to review as well here. But if we don't do this, we will not be at the latest technology or at the highest speed. Whereas if you can see Singapore, they are actually sunset their 2G in 2017. Even Australia is the same in about the same years, I think in 2017. And I think now they are start to scrap their 3Gs. They are not using 3Gs anymore. They are using the lowest of 4G, and they are implementing 5G. If you look at China today, they are already on the 5G somewhere last year, but they are talking about going to the 6G already. Yeah, so it's heavy R&D, and this is how how they strategize, how they are actually put a focus in this internet speed, because I think we have to do that, because moving out to digitalization, even I think government also is moving out from traditional ways of handling things, and everything is moving towards digitalization. So I think the shutdown of the 2G and the 3G networks is necessary. Yeah. The businesses, for example, even the individual peoples like us, the users, also will expect the faster services. Or when you, for example, downloads a file, you want to see the file is downloaded in a fast pace, right? So sometimes if you are in the area where there is no 4G coverage and you try to download even sometimes your media social, for example, like FB, IGs and all that, you will have problems, and they are keep circling and circling and circling. So that is the issue with the speed. So I think it's necessary for Malaysia to actually speed up those sunset of 2G and 3G as what those most Asian countries or European has been done earlier. Yeah. For example, if you see my points number 2, in Europe, they have started to actually upscaling since 2006. Yeah, way it's how many years now? It's more than 14 years or 15 years. Yeah, they have started those 4G and all that. So that's why I said the technology is there, the infrastructure is there. How we in Malaysia is going to adopt those infrastructures and implement. Yeah. So when we do this, I think only we can actually have those uh, gaps in the speed. Uh, I don't want to say settle, or at least improve. Yeah. Okay, speed up number 4. What I think is actually to speed up on the 5G implementation. I'm not sure if you know or not, the 5G implementation in Malaysia has been postponed now. It has been delayed for some reasons. Yeah. So, international news has been reported that Malaysian don't expect 5G until 2022. So, for me, this is much delays. And if you look at the current situation now, especially the pandemic today, the COVID-19, the lifestyles or the ways of working has been changed, right? All peoples are, for example, working from home, and all the households peoples are doing shopping from the online and all that. This has actually created a very high surge in the bandwidth, right? And I just read from a news in MCMC that the telcos are overall, they receive as high as 40% of unsatisfactions complaints from the end users. I mean, peoples in Malaysia. I mean, with the changes or upcoming maybe 3 to 5 years until the COVID or the pandemic issues is solved, there is a very critical need to speed up the services. I think it's critical now that we speed up, especially if you look at the universities and all that. Everyone is actually almost majority, or I would say 100% of the students now is actually doing online classes, right? And for example, you can imagine the student which live in the low coverage area. So like in Sabah, in Sarawak and all that. So that's very critical conditions that may impact their studies or may impact their online activities and all that. Also, we are moving into Industrial 4.0, and everything has to be digitalization. There's a need to actually speed up the implementation. Yeah. And also the Spectrum Award for 5G, which has been announced by the previous prime ministers, now has been stopped, and I think we have a U-turn. So it's a necessity now that MCMC help to actually look into this and speed up while the requirements towards all Malaysians is getting higher and higher to have the high broadband speed. Yeah. So this is one of the main critical areas as well. And of course, the collaboration between the MOSTI itself, the ministry and the MCMC has to be more tightened, yeah, especially in collaboration to reduce the dependency on other countries, right? For example, have more collaborations between our telcos and other global telcos, for example, in Huawei and all that. So this is how we are actually improve or have more skills in this implementations of high-speed broadband. Yeah. Okay. Um, Is this enhanced calibrations? Yeah, I think this is, sorry, that is already number 5 just now. Sorry for the technical present error on the presentation. I think that's number 5 already, yeah. Enhance the collaborations between MOSTI, Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, yeah. And hopefully by a lot of collaborations, we are actually creating more initiative and create more skillful peoples in our country itself. Yeah, and guiding programs, and I think this is more to be upgrading our lifestyles, our ways of working, and we will be very competitive in parallel with the technology developments in the world. Yeah. Okay. So especially, I think the opportunities is very high in the schools, in the education's scope perspective, in the universities areas, right? For example, now in Malaysia, if you know, I think the one who has the highest internet speed available in the campus is MMU, Multimedia University, and they are private universities, yeah. And the most that they have is 100 megabits per second. And you imagine one universities, they have, for example, 5,000 and sharing amongst those 100 megabits, and you can imagine the surge in the bandwidth itself. Yeah, so it's very there's a lot of challenges there, but I can see there's a lot of opportunities for improvement as well, and we need to do that. Otherwise, I think the indicator itself won't be going any further if we don't take those action as necessary, or we don't take fast actions on that, to be true. Yeah. Okay. I have another one, basically. Sorry again. Yeah. I think this is the last one that I have. This is very critical as well, especially to brought up the skilled peoples in the technology itself, right? For example, we are implementing the 5G technologies, and report shows that we still don't have a adequate or appropriate skill sets of people to actually do the implementations of the 5Gs. Yeah. So we have to look into be more aggressive on this, be more collaborations with research universities, for example, in China. They have a lot of research universities, especially Nanyang universities and all that. In fact, I think locally as well, there's I mean, more than 10 perhaps our own public universities that is actually established as a research university. So I think we have to improve more in this on our R&D, even improve skill sets of the engineer itself, even the regulators itself. They have to have a full skills of all the technologies, especially now we are moving toward 5G in Malaysia. So we have to get ready with the skill first and not depending much on others, which will create lots of delays and higher costs in the implementation itself, right? So perhaps there's a lot of incentive or programs or certifications that need to be developed in terms of their communication technologies, right? And I think international providers, for example, Huawei, Ericsson's, they are ready to give knowledge, because I think all of these established global organizations, they have their own academy. For example, Huawei, they have a very big Asian academy, and it is located in Kuala Lumpur in the KLCC. We have to make use of those, right? For example, Ericsson, they have huge academy in Sweden, in their home location. So it's a lot of collaborations can be done in the their academies itself, between our universities itself or the industries itself. Yeah, and also as we move to the IoT now, technology, Internet of Things. If you heard about the smart cities, smart home lights and all that. This is actually using the broadband services. So there is a need as we grow, and IoT in Malaysia as well is becoming on trend right now. For example, in home, people are start using the smart lighting. Yeah, uh, they have using the Wi-Fi from the home itself, right? So they control all the lights through the applications and the smart city. In overseas, for example, like in US, the smart cities is actually growing up. And if you would like to know, we have one smart city which is piloting under IoT projects in Malaysia. It is in Malacca. Okay, if you have time, you see in Bandar Malacca itself, if you look at the street light, they are smart street lighting. So what they use is actually using a communication device that they are actually installed inside the lamp pole itself, and then using the SIM card connected into the phone application, and the engineers is actually controlling all the cities at the fingertips, or the local authorities, for example, Majlis Perbandaran, right? They don't need to go and patrolling. They just control in one applications with the software in their laptops or their smartphones, and control where they can actually control the dims to dims the light whenever they want. For example, midnight, there's no cars, they can save the energy cost, electrical bill by dimming the lights, because the light is actually the smart lights using the IoT technologies. So it is coming up in Malaysia, and I think the services need to be improve as well. Otherwise, we can't actually moving towards that IoT, or moving towards all the smart cities, smart offices, and all that, right? Yeah. So I think that's all the recommendations I have. I don't know, Mr. Wang, is there any questions in between?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Puan Hartini. I'm checking here. So far, there are no questions yet that I could see from the question box or chat box here. Maybe to kick off, yeah, the Q&A. If you have completed your presentation, Puan Hartini, to kick off the Q&A session, I can ask the first question. So, in my opinion, Puan, while 5G broadband implementation is important and necessary for big data, IoT applications, and also for us to move towards a smart cities implementation, but I think for our whole country, I mean, if we focus on this particular criterion of internet bandwidth speed as measured by IMD in their WCY, I think is for me, for our country of Malaysia, we have a big area, big region, unlike Singapore, which is a city state. So probably easier for them to implement 4G or moving towards 5G network as well. But for us, to me, I think it's important, like you said earlier in the presentation, how we can phase out, the slow networks, 2G or those even before 2G, and as well as 3G networks, and turn them into 4G, especially in the non-urban areas. Yeah, I think city, maybe major cities, we are okay, but outside the cities, most of the time we don't get the 4G connection. We only get 2G and 3G speed. So I think that's more important to me in order to have a bigger coverage, a bigger network coverage of 4G networks for Malaysia, because the way this criterion is being measured is not average, right? Taking the average of internet speed across different parts of the country. So with that,
Yes.
I'd like to ask, what is our authorities, our Ministry of Multimedia Communication and also MCMC, are they still driving this NFCP, I think it's called, National Fiberization and Connectivity Program? Is that still on track according to the roadmap? Because I understand that was developed by the previous government. So with the change of government, how has that been now, going on? The progress of that. Your opinion, please, Puan.
Yeah, I think it is progressing. Of course, it was with the previous government, right? That's right. But if you know, somewhere last month, in September, they actually announced another program, I think, inherit from the NFCP as well, which is a improvement or additional plan called Jendela with this new government. I think our PM Muhyiddin has already announced that somewhere in October. Call it Jendela is a I have to find out what is actually the long name of Jendela. I think it's Jendela Digital. That's what it means. And due to these pandemic situations and all that, in the original plan, for example, in FCP, is already a plan to actually upgrade or make all the full coverage to the higher speed, for example 4G, especially in the urban areas, and they are also targeting the businesses, the buildings to have the highest as high as 500 megapixel speed in the buildings in Malaysia and all that. And especially, I think this is concentration through the NFCP. They are concentrate or focus to develop in the urban and rural areas, because that is where those under coverage of the latest technology is, right? And I think now the NFCP, they are continuing now with the Jendela. So by 2023, they are targeting full coverage of 4G in both. I mean, talking about the main city, in the rural areas, I think they are okay, they are established. The signal is there. It's just that to actually increase the spectrums when they want to implement the 5Gs, right, the capabilities. But in the rural areas, I think it's more works to do that, to make sure the penetrations is there, especially the development of building up the telecommunication towers and all that. Because a certain bandwidth, they can go within a certain radius as well. And if you look at the geographical of Malaysia, it wasn't easy, because we have hillside, especially on the east side of Malaysia. And we really have to actually really have a lot of checks, a lot of research and all that. Likewise, in Singapore, they are quite flat, and actually they are very close to each other. That's why I think in comparison as well, why they can make those 5G or 4G faster than us is actually their geographical areas as well. That's contribute as well. For example, they are close to each others, and they can actually, the signal is quite strong, and they can actually handle more bandwidth, because it's all mainly within the radius, yeah, Mr. Wong, as you see. So for us, is more than that. It's not only putting up the coverage, it's also how to build up those infrastructure to make sure that the capacity or the capabilities is there, right? So I think now NFCP is now moving to Jendela. So is quite, I can see that it's quite aggressive and a very strategic planning there. In fact, they are actually targeting to have 5Gs as fast as they can as well. And they are targeting to improve by next year itself, 2021, 30% of the 4G coverage within the rural areas. I think the plan is up to the 2030 for Jendela. That was just announced in September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was mistaken previously, Puan. I always thought that our Telecom Malaysia, they have the monopoly for the fixed broadband with the fiber optics and previously the copper wire, right? So I thought with the cellular or the wireless or mobile broadband, the private sector, the other players can have what do you call a freedom, or rather it's not restricted to expand their network. Is that not such a case, or how is it going to change with this Jendela Digital? Will there be a consideration looking into this?
I think yes, those are still, I mean, the system of the main internet service provider is there. I think the Telecom Malaysia will be there as well. But I think the issuance of the licenses and all that for the telcos to build up the infrastructure will be getting more focus in Jendela. I think to meet all the targets and all that they want to have the full 5G, 4G penetrations by 2023, I guess. Yeah. So this will actually, perhaps I look at this is actually, it could be easier for the telco to actually immediately increase their capacities or their capabilities, right? And if you look at now as well, for example, Time, they are fully on the fiber optic now instead of Cooper. So this means that they have capabilities to upgrade, right? So I hope with this Jendela, it will be more focused and more, easy policy of approvals for all these telcos to actually increase their capabilities, right?
Yeah.
To this
Yes.
Jendela. Yeah. That's I hope as well, and I think it's all Malaysian hope to do that, right? And MCMC I think has to play a critical role here to make sure that Jendela is successful.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Puan. Yeah, also like you mentioned earlier, with the post-COVID-19 era, right? Or even during this time now, more and more people are relying on the internet to do their work from home or from a remote place, rather than in the office or where they used to work. So the internet connection is very important, especially with online meetings, with teacher, trying to teach the students through online methods. So all this is showing that it will not go away. I mean, even after we have the vaccine for COVID-19, I think this will continue. The need for high-speed internet, especially now that we are in the IR 4.0 era, everything will need to talk to each other, remotely. The Internet of Things, analyzing data, storage of data in the cloud, retrieving data, and so on. So all this will require a better network. I mean, ultimately, we want to be like the developed countries. We want to be the first to implement 5G network. But for now, I think our focus is how can we speed up the implementation of 4G and phase out, like you say, refarm the spectrum, phase out all those 2G and the 3G spectrums, and then allocate more 4G network focus.
Yeah, true.
So, carry on, please. Yes, you're saying?
Yes. No, I just want to add, if you look at the even not the big industries player, if you look at the SMEs, I think they are more SMEs in the suburbans or rural areas, right? So you can see the needs there as well. is increasing and all that. If you don't have this infrastructure or high internet speeds and all that, I think it will be a problem for them to develop from that perspective as well. So perhaps with the post-COVID or the changes of our lifestyles, our businesses into digitalization, these internet services could be part of the human rights after this. We don't know, because today is not yet, because the denominations is not fully used yet, but one day it could be a necessity for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have personal experience as a rakyat or a person using using applications that require internet. The most well-known one is Google Map or Waze, right? So I have encountered situation when I'm at the outskirts, or rural area, when the internet speed was slow and it couldn't give a fast enough response for me, And my car is facing one direction, but it wasn't showing I was facing that direction. So as I drive, it gave me tell me to turn left or turn right, and there was no left turn or right turn. So it is difficult to use Google Map or Waze, for example, if you don't have a high-speed internet. And it's so, what they call, taken for granted nowadays, this type of app, that we use them every day. We need to use them every day. It's a necessity already. So therefore, I think our internet speed should be, should be good enough to cater to the rakyat, to be able to use such applications in daily life.
Exactly. Because as you also, on top of that, you said you are using Waze and all that, and keep rerouting you and all that when you enter the low speed internet service, right? And also the development of the smartphone itself, right, is actually designed based on the criteria of the technology itself. So I mean, it's also a necessity for us to actually be at par with those technology of the phone itself, right? For example, iPhone. For you to actually use 3G and 4G, you need to have at least iPhone 6. Below than that may not handle 3G and 4G. So this, if you look at the lifestyle, especially in the cities and all that, the youngsters right now, the smartphones lifestyle or users of the smartphone is there. So in parallel, there is a need to increase the capabilities of the internet services as well, for them to use all those high-tech phones as well. So this is one of the areas that I see as well that is critical for us to see how we can improve in the speed of internet in Malaysia.
Okay. There's one question that has just come in, Puan. So let me relay that question to you for your opinion. This question is from Encik Muhammad Wafi. The question goes like this: Malaysia is actually inadequate. Malaysia is actually inadequate in terms of internet existence in many perspectives, like education during pandemic. We face many challenges where not all Malaysians are well equipped with proper internet due to different economic background. So the objectives might not be reached unless 100% of Malaysians are ready to pursue the activities of internet usage. Your opinion, madam? Your opinion on this.
Yes, I do agree with that as well, right? If you look at the denominations of the technology itself is imbalanced. They are most in the main city or the main states and all that, where all the industries are ongoing, right? And yes, of course, the educations or the at least a basic knowledge of how to use internet, for example, in the rural areas, right? For example, in banking services, for example, in the government services when you want to pay cukai tanah or whatever, right? So the educations or the basic skill is needed. So I think there is also opportunities there, or it's not opportunities, or maybe the governments have to take initiative there to have more educationals. For example, in Japan, how they would be able to increase their subscribers, and at the same time as well, of course, with the technology increase, the internet services, they did educate their peoples, even up to the rural areas. They give educations, they engage face to face, they engage online. There's a lot of programs and all that. So I think we should follow the same in order for Malaysian to be, knowledgeable or upgrade themselves with the internet or the technology knowledge and all that. I think that is necessary, because if you, for example, go and install the 4G in, for example, okay, say Gua Musang, sorry, it's not bias or whatever, this is part of the rural areas, but people don't know how to use that, so it will be useless. So I agree with the Encik Rafi, Encik Rafi, that the education and the technology innovation has to go in parallel. So lots of programs, a lot of educations activities need to be done. Even I think it's not only government, the telecommunication players as well can actually do this as CSR, for example, right? It's a lot of things can be explored through the community activities, the CSR and all that, and they may get incentive from the governments or whatever, I don't know. So there's a lot of educational platforms, like in Singapore, of course. Their government is actually very engaged and very committed in upscaling or increase the knowledge of their peoples in view with the technological development. For example, I give you, even in the main city or in the rural areas, in terms of the IoTs, right? We do some surveys previously. Not many people, only 20% know IoT. Why that happened? Because the awareness, the knowledge is not spread or is not actually shared with them, in the correct ways. So it's a lot of things, and I think it is one of the important areas as well to look into, rather than we actually focus in the increase the penetrations of the 4G or 5G itself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your opinion on that. Looks like that's the only question we have for today. And looking at the time, Puan, I think we have come to the end of our talk today. Thank you very much for sharing with us, your opinion and your findings and recommendations as well on this internet bandwidth speed, which is very close to our heart. Everybody in Malaysia, I think, since our mobile broadband subscription or penetration is really more than 100%, I believe almost everybody in Malaysia is affected by this internet bandwidth speed in some way or other. So thank you for this captivating and enlightening talk. And I'd like to thank also our participants who have joined us this afternoon for taking precious time out from your busy schedule to participate in this webinar. And I wish everyone here good day and also a productive rest of the week ahead. So stay healthy, stay safe, and as much as possible, stay at home during this CMCO period. Thank you, Puan Hartini, and thank you to everyone who have joined this webinar. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.